1/10 of a second. That's all your brain needs to judge whether a stranger looks trustworthy, competent, or threatening. Before a single word is spoken, the first impression has already formed, and research shows that snap judgment will color every interaction that follows. But what exactly is your mind reading in that fraction of a second, and once the verdict lands, can anything genuinely reverse it? To trace this split-second process, researchers track the exact movement of the human gaze. Eye-tracking data shows that during any initial encounter, visual attention lands on the face within the first 200 milliseconds. This face-first prioritization is highly consistent. The fovea, the central region of the retina responsible for sharp vision, is drawn automatically to the eyes and the mouth. Gaze heat maps show dense fixation clusters over these two areas, which the brain samples repeatedly before scanning any other physical feature. These specific landmarks provide the most immediate biological data, offering clues about emotional state, social intent, and immediate focus. Once this facial scanning is complete, the visual sweep expands outward to secondary cues in a systematic sequence. Grooming and facial expressions are analyzed next, serving as indicators of self-care, health, and situational accessibility. From there, the gaze moves downward to sample clothing and overall posture. Clothing acts as a prominent visual anchor, signaling professional role, economic background, or cultural alignment, while posture offers silent evidence of confidence and physical presence. These separate visual details are collected and assembled in a rapid, highly organized manner. Before a person even begins to speak, the observer's visual system has already mapped their features, read their expression, and evaluated their attire. This structured scanning pattern provides the raw sensory input that feeds subsequent cognitive judgments. It is a highly coordinated physical mechanism built on rapid eye movements and immediate physiological classification, occurring entirely below conscious awareness. As the observer gathers visual data, posture and physical space refine the initial reading. An upright posture communicates authority, while expansive movements signal presence. Proxemics, the physical distance a person maintains, defines boundaries of comfort and social accessibility. Simultaneously, the auditory system processes vocal cues. Tone, pitch, and pace instantly shape judgments of character. Research demonstrates that speakers with lower fundamental frequencies are rated higher in dominance and strength, a pattern observed in studies of political candidates and economic negotiations. Conversely, a measured speech rate and softer tonal quality convey warmth, reliability, and cooperative intent. Yet, these cues are not evaluated in isolation. Context reshapes how the brain weights each signal. An individual observed in a formal corporate office receives higher competence ratings, whereas the exact same person in a casual cafe is judged as more warm and approachable. Experimental data shows that changing the background scenery alters trait ratings with moderate effect sizes, proving that the surrounding environment guides how physical attributes are parsed. Culture also dictates these nonverbal rules. Direct eye contact signals confidence in New York, yet communicates aggression in Tokyo. The personal space people require expands in Northern Europe, but contracts in Southern Europe. First impressions are not universal. They are localized interpretations of physical signals, heavily dependent on where the interaction takes place. The human mind rapidly merges individual sensory inputs into a unified global evaluation. In 1920, psychologist Edward L. Thorndike first documented this systematic error during his research with military officers. He observed that commanding officers who rated a soldier highly in one physical category, such as neatness or posture, automatically assigned them superior marks for character, intelligence, and leadership. This phenomenon, known as the halo effect, represents a trait spillover where one prominent positive attribute colors entirely unrelated judgments. When an observer encounters an attractive face or a polished professional presentation, the brain takes an intuitive shortcut. Attractiveness automatically inflates assumptions of intelligence, trustworthiness, and social grace, while structured elegance in attire raises the perceived level of competence. Instead of evaluating capability and intellect through objective performance, the mind uses physical appeal as a proxy for professional value. The weight of this distortion rests entirely within the evaluator. It is an unconscious overgeneralization where a pleasing sensory cue acts as a blanket validation, quietly altering how every subsequent action is interpreted. The brain favors a cohesive, uncomplicated narrative over the messy reality of human complexity. By relying on this mental shortcut, the perceiver builds a glowing profile based on a single, isolated attribute, translating superficial harmony into an unearned assumption of overall excellence. The mind actively defends these early labels once they are formed. Once a category is assigned, the brain filters subsequent observations through confirmation bias, a cognitive habit where observers selectively search for and recall information that matches their initial belief. Ambiguous behaviors are rarely evaluated with a clean slate. Instead, through expectancy confirmation, neutral or vague actions are interpreted as concrete proof of the original assessment. This selective filtering serves a practical, biological purpose. The brain conserves metabolic energy by operating under the principle of cognitive economy. Constantly updating an opinion of another person requires significant mental effort, so the cognitive system prefers to keep a single, static shortcut rather than build a new profile with each encounter. This conservation is intensified by stereotype shortcuts, which group individuals into pre-existing categories to bypass active, demanding observation. As a result, later evidence is rarely judged on its own merits. It is filtered through the original category, transforming a fleeting reaction into a locked-in mental habit that resists revision. Once established, this mental file remains closed to minor contradictions, ensuring that the first label continues to dictate how the person is perceived. Revising a locked-in mental label requires specific cognitive conditions. Experimental data shows that updates occur only when an observer is actively motivated to change their mind and receives new, highly diagnostic information from a believable source. Rather than random occurrences, these disconfirming facts must be systematically repeated over time to overcome entrenched cognitive inertia. Notably, signals of moral character, such as honesty, fairness, or altruism, carry far more updating force in shifting global evaluations than achievements or superficial traits. For the individual seeking to reshape an impression, this shift relies entirely on deliberate, active behavior rather than superficial appearance. Change is built across subsequent encounters through consistent actions, strategic self-disclosure of values, and contextual reframing of past interactions. When a negative impression stems from a mistake, a sincere apology paired with immediate corrective action can reset the relationship. By providing repeated opportunities for others to observe competence and genuine warmth, the initial snap judgment slowly dissolves. During a panel interview, a job candidate stumbles through the first 5 minutes, their anxiety misread as a lack of competence. Yet across a 3-month probation period, their reliable, high-quality output steadily overwrites that initial hesitation. In a casual social circle, a friend of a friend appears cold and aloof during a brief introduction. Over weekly gatherings, however, their quiet support during a group conflict reveals deep reliability, turning early skepticism into lasting trust. For a corporate client, a consultant delivers a flawless, polished pitch, but when they miss the first critical deadline, the client's early enthusiasm collapses, proving that business credibility ultimately relies on follow-through rather than initial presentation. On a first date, an awkward start with stiff posture and nervous over-talking initially misrepresents a partner's character. As the evening progresses into a casual walk, the tension dissolves, letting genuine warmth and sincere self-disclosure redefine the connection. Each scenario shows that while a split-second judgment sets a baseline, it does not lock in a permanent fate. Perceptions remain fluid, shifting as superficial signals give way to the steady weight of actual behavior over time. A single glance may write the opening line of a connection, but it never dictates the final chapter. While our brains crave instant judgments, consistent character ultimately rewrites the snapshot. We are defined by our patterns, not just our moments. How will you show up today? Share your thoughts below.